And Ryan, unless you're the Steelers, of course, they're looking to bounce back after they've had a couple of straight losses. They have to do it without their starting running back. That brings us to today's headlines. The struggling Steelers will be without their leading rusher, James Conner, against the Bengals tonight due to a quad injury. Benny Snell will get the start as Pittsburgh looks to shake a two-game losing streak. Clyde Edwards-Helaire suffered a high ankle sprain and a strained hip in the Chiefs' win over the Saints, a source told ESPN's Adam Schefter. Le'Veon Bell will have an increased role the next 2 weeks, and the 13-1 Chiefs hope their first-round pick can return in the postseason. John Calipari asked Cameron Fletcher to, quote, step away from the team after the freshman was visibly upset in Saturday's loss to North Carolina. Though Fletcher did apologize, Calipari said he must preserve a culture that, quote, will not change despite the Wildcats' 1-5 start. Coach Penny Hardaway has agreed to a 5-year contract extension with Memphis, a deal worth $12.25 million over 5 years. Hardaway, who played for the Tigers, has his team off to a 5-3 start. And the Heat have moved on from James Harden trade talk, sources told ESPN. Houston is looking for draft assets, and the Heat can only offer a 2027 first-rounder.
And by the way, speaking of the NBA, we're just a little over 24 hours before the start of the NBA season, and it starts with KD and Kyrie playing for the first time together as members of the Nets, facing off in Brooklyn against a team Durant helped win 2 NBA titles, Steph Curry and the Warriors. So you think this Nets debut against his former team has some special meaning for Durant? Here's KD and Steph Curry earlier today.
It's going to be good to see some of my old teammates, good to play against them, good to see some of the people I work with in my time in Golden State. But nothing more than that. The game of basketball is always going to have me on that level of wanting to play extremely hard every time I'm out there.
You want to see everybody healthy. You want to see everybody able to play, especially what he's capable of doing on the court. But at the end of the day, like we all say, it is just another game. It is our first regular season game, so there's a lot of excitement just around being back in the action. It'll be cool to see him out there and all those pleasantries, and then get to just competing. I think that's what we all expect.
Well, tomorrow night at Staples Center, the defending champion Lakers will be meeting Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers, who will be led by their new head coach and former Laker Tyronn Lue. He takes over for Doc Rivers. And Lue plans to implement sets of triangle offense, hoping to use Kawhi in ways like Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan played. Kawhi becomes a free agent, or can be after this season, but he wants to keep the focus on now.
For my situation right now, I'm just focused on this season. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I'm going anywhere else or staying here, but I'm just focused on the season. And, obviously for, if I stay healthy, the best decision is to decline a player option, but that doesn't mean I'm leaving or staying. I'm focused on the season, like I said. We'll talk about that when the time is right.
Okay, let's welcome in NBA insider Brian Windhorst. He joins us now to run through a number of topics on the eve of the new season. So let's start with Kawhi saying right there his best decision, if he's healthy, is to decline that player option, enter free agency after the season. He's not saying he's leaving or staying. How surprising is that admission for you?
Well, I just like how candid he is. That is an exact, accurate analysis of what his situation is. And we don't often see players be that forthcoming about it, even though it's the reality. And look, one of the reasons you signed a 2+1 contract as a free agent like Kawhi did was to keep the team uncomfortable. And if you look at what the Clippers have done, they've made changes to this roster. And as you mentioned, making changes to the offense. They're going to install a different offense for him using triangle sets. Now, Kawhi was vocal at the end of last season about how he wasn't happy about the Clippers were running, how they weren't playing intelligent offensively. Well, the triangle is an intelligent offense, and here they are catering to him, hoping to keep him happy.
All right, I think it's going to stun people how matter-of-fact he was, but as you say, it is true. Now, ahead of the Warriors-Nets opener tonight, let's talk about that. What are the expectations for Kevin Durant, given how well he's looked in Brooklyn's preseason games?
Well, in all the years I've covered the NBA, which is almost 2 full decades now, I've never seen a player look this good coming off an Achilles injury as Kevin Durant has. Now, he's had the benefit of having over 500 days to recover. We don't normally see that. He also is a guy who doesn't rely on athleticism for his jump shot. So he's particularly adept at returning from this injury. The expectations for the Nets this year are sky high. Durant was maybe the most impressive player in the preseason, which is not something you ever hear about a guy coming off an Achilles. A lot of excitement in Brooklyn about how he's going to start this season.
And by the way, it's important to know for the Warriors, Draymond Green's going to be out tomorrow night with a foot injury, so that will make it difficult for them. Now, let's talk about James Harden. I know you have more details on the Heat's interest, but first let's hear from the Rockets start today.
James, now that you've been in camp for about a week, do you feel any better about this situation now than you did before you arrived?
Next question.
There's nothing like a good next question. Well, Brian, with Houston's first game on Wednesday, what's the latest on that Harden trade market?
Yeah, well, the Miami Heat have made it known that they are pulling out of trade talks with the Rockets and will move forward. I think this was a message, frankly, to their team more than anything else. They didn't want their young players like Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson, who've heard their names in trade rumors. I don't think they wanted them distracted at the start of the season. And frankly, in the discussions that they've had, they haven't had much traction anyway. Neither the Rockets nor the Heat felt that way, so they're moving on. Now, there are ongoing talks, Philadelphia, Brooklyn, and Denver among those teams, but the Rockets' asking price is still high, and right now no team is willing to meet it.
A lot to think about on the eve of the NBA season. Brian Windhorst, thanks.
Well, it was great to see Drew Brees back on the field, but this is not the way he hoped to return. The future Hall of Famer was anything but on Sunday against the Chiefs. The most accurate quarterback in league history completed just 44% of his passes. That is the third worst in any of his 285 career starts. His QBR of 23.6 was the second lowest in the league yesterday. The third down was the biggest issue for Brees. He was held to 1 of 10 with an interception on third down. That's the worst completed percentage since joining the Saints. He had been completing an NFL best 76% of his passes on third down entering the day. You got to, of course, wonder about the impact of that rib injury. His first 6 passes were all incomplete, the worst start he has had in his career. Here he was speaking last night after the game as well as today.
Are you 100%?
No, but I'm on my way. I feel pretty good, all things considered. You know, obviously day after a game, soreness, kind of the normal stuff. A lot of yesterday was just kind of getting the feel back, you know, for me, honestly, especially to start that game. So, you know, there were times where we got rolling. There were times where we made some big plays and did some good things, but just not quite enough.
And now for more on Brees and the Saints, we bring in Marcus Spears. Now, the Saints find themselves just 1 game back of the Packers for the 1 seed in the NFC. And we heard Brees say he's still not feeling 100%. So how should the Saints now feel following that 3-point loss to the Chiefs?
Yeah, Ash, I look at this as glass half full instead of empty, because if you think about it, like if I told you Drew Brees was going to come off of a 4-week hiatus after broken ribs, fractured ribs, and a punctured lung, and you would put Michael Thomas on IR, and you would lose Cam Jordan during the game, who wouldn't be there for trying to get critical stops at the end of the game to get Drew Brees and this offense the ball back, and we would lose by 3 to the Kansas City Chiefs, I walk away saying